What about these Commanders, Tyler? This is for what we thought this was going to be coming into the year. It's a lot different. I think we all expected Jaden Daniels, to look good, look good on the field and play well, which he has. For fantasy purposes, especially, he's played well. But these receivers, bruh, we're expecting Terry McLaurin, somebody to be way more consistent in this offense, and it's not there, man. How concerned are you about these Commanders receivers? I know it's only 2 weeks into the year, brand new offense in there, but how concerned are you about these Commanders receivers?
I mean, I'm concerned just because the problem, like we've seen it with Cliff Kingsbury, where like he was kind of ran out of Arizona because of the system that he has is just it's a very basic system. And like I saw one of the Cincinnati players say it's a college system. And honestly, it is kind of a college system that he's running. They don't ask them to do a whole lot. It's very, very basic. And I saw Terry McLaurin. I don't know what the exact stat was, but I was looking at this and it was receiving stats. And right now he has one of the highest I don't know if it's targets or receptions in terms of like manufactured touches. So like screens and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So he's just seeing a lot of like, and he's also one of the higher receivers in terms of behind the line of scrimmage targets. So it's a lot of just manufactured style of touches for him currently. Now that's maybe not to say that it won't change, but it's just kind of how this offense works, where it's, a lot of short stuff closer to the line of scrimmage. So I am a little bit concerned. And also the other thing too, is like we see it historically, rookie quarterbacks don't produce high-end wide receivers. It just doesn't usually happen. So you have all this stacked against him. Terry McLaurin has never actually finished inside the top 20 in terms of points per game throughout his career. So he's just a guy that I think is a very good real life wide receiver, just hasn't fully translated to fantasy. So, I mean, I would be definitely concerned if I thought he was going to be, a really solid wide receiver for my team. I'd be concerned.
Yeah, it's crazy to see, you have 8 targets in a game, kind of like Michael Pittman. You have 8 targets in a game and you don't produce a 50-yard day. It's like,
did he have like 6 catches too? It was like 6 catches
for like 22 yards. And
yeah, it was rough.
It's just like, I think I think
running back numbers.
Good. Huh?
That's like running back numbers for receptions.
I think when you look at like what McLaurin can do, it's like we know every single year he's 1,005. So the hot streak is going to come at some time. And you got to think Cliff Kingsbury is a smart enough guy to know, like, I got to get my number one receiver involved. But it's been very intriguing to see how this thing is played out. And we know Jaden Daniels is like a 200-yard a game guy. He's obviously not going to be passing for a ton of volume. That was the hope, seeing that his senior season that he had at LSU was like, you led the league in yardage. Let him, like, we were expecting this, I think for fantasy purposes, he could carry a guy like McLaurin. It just seems like it might be more inconsistent than we want this year, because you got a guy, Noah Brown, who just came to the team, had 50 yards. Zach Ertz had over 50 yards. And then you get Terry McLaurin, who can't reach 30 yards in either game.
Yeah.
Something's kind of broken here. So I think they have to find a way to get Terry McLaurin more involved. Wouldn't surprise me to see it come this week against Cincinnati, but I'm not betting on it. Like, when would you bet on Terry McLaurin bounce back? I'm just not betting on it, just given the nature of this passing attack.
I wouldn't want him in my starting lineup right now. Like,
it's tough.
There's other like him or Jawan Jennings. I don't know. It's pretty close.
They're right there. Yeah.
So it's just, and it's not even like, I understand that it's, once again, it's early, but like this was kind of a concern too. And this is why he was going later in drafts, is because of this, like these reasonings. So it's just not, it's not ideal. At least like the targets, there's targets. He's seeing targets, which is obviously, nice, but hopefully they're a little bit, I want to say his ADOT's like 9, which isn't horrible, but you still want to see it get pushed down the field a little bit more, and maybe it opens up a little bit. We'll see.
Let me ask you this. So if you had Terry McLaurin on your team right now, because here's how I play. I think if I had Terry McLaurin right now, I'm still hoping for better days. Like I think there will be games where he looks like Terry McLaurin. Are you going and saying, you know what? No, first opportunity I have when he has a good game, bang, he's gone off my team, gone off the squad. The minute he looks the part, I'm sending him. Or are you like, nah, I think he could be a wide receiver 3, because me personally, I believe in track record. I believe in history of a player. And we've seen year after year, Terry McLaurin gets 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns. We've seen it. The proof is in the pudding. He'll be a top 25 to 30 receiver. Are you waiting for the good game? I believe in it. I firmly believe in it. Wide receiver 3 at floor. You believe in it or no?
I would so. Yeah. And the reason why is just because, like I said, it's not that I don't believe in Jane Daniels. I don't believe in the volume that Jane Daniels can produce. Like, I don't think he's going to be throwing for 4,000 yards. Probably not even, maybe he gets a 3,600. He's probably going to end up, right around there. So I just don't think that this is going to be a high volume passing offense. And I don't think that they want it to be either. Like, this is going to be a team that will run the football. Jane Daniels is going to run the football. So I would just look for the opportunity to sell, but it also comes down to like, what can I get as well? So that also depends, but I would look to try to sell high, and I would look to try to sell high on two guys. It
Sell
would be
high.
him or what?
Said sell high. I don't know. I don't know. There's much sell high.
When he has his game,
yeah.
If he has a blow up game, and I'd be looking to also get out. Oh, I already said this. I would be looking to sell low on Pittman too. Like I'm just getting out of both these guys, unfortunately.
That sucks. What about the running backs, man? Because Brian Robinson, there was a lot of talk from people like, oh, he's the guy here. We've seen him be the guy. It just ain't equating to fantasy points, bro. It's equating to like middle tier RB2. I mean, he's an RB2 right now, but I think the touch is like, when you have a 130-yard game, you feel like, damn, you should have like 20 fantasy points, not 15, right? So I think when it comes to him and Eckler, there's a good balance here, better than I thought. I thought one of them would be like the guy and the other one would kind of take a backseat. It seems like Brian Robinson cemented himself as like the David Montgomery of this offense. We know he's going to get the red zone work, but like the David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs of last year in the first half, where David Montgomery was the guy, and we saw kind of like, Jahmyr Gibbs playing a secondary role. I think that's where we're at with this Commanders thing. How do you feel about Eckler, though? Because there was a lot of like Eckler hate this offseason, and he's like flex worthy at least right now. You think he'd be better than that or no? You think this is where he's at? This is his ceiling?
I think this is kind of where he's at. I like Brian Robinson a lot. I think like I liked him a lot.
You think he's a top 20 guy?
Yeah, I do. Like you're talking. So the reason why is because I think that Brian Robinson I think he's like actually good. I think he's a good football player, and I think he's also a bit underrated in terms of his receiving. Like I really do think he's a pretty solid receiving back. We saw it last year.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like so far this year, he currently is RB7 in terms of expected fantasy points per game. Now I know that's expected fantasy points per game, but like last year or right now he's seeing an 11% target share, which currently ranks 15th amongst running backs. Austin Eckler's 11th. He has 13%. And the one thing is right now what you're seeing too is like that's kind of what Jane Daniels is doing. He's throwing to the running backs and tight ends quite a bit. And maybe this, changes throughout the season and he's able to, throw it to the wide receivers a little bit more. But Brian Robinson, I just think number one is I just think he's a pretty good real life player. He'll be this team's goal line back outside of, Jane Daniels having some rushing touchdowns. And for where you got him, you probably drafted him in like the 8th, 9th round. I just think that's pretty good for like a guy that you probably drafted to be your RB3, maybe even RB4 at that point. That can be an RB2. So I would just continue to hold him. And if anything, God forbid anything were to happen to Eckler, 29 years old, he could potentially be a workhorse because I don't even know who would be this team's receiving back. So yeah, I like him a lot personally.
I think the upside's there. You mentioned it. And I think it comes down to the development of this offense. If this stays a heavy run and between the numbers type of passing attack, then I think we see a lot of consistent results. And Brian Robinson was probably drafted too low. But hopefully, I think for fantasy purposes, I want to see this thing open up a little bit more. I want to see some of this air raid. I want to see some of the Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels. You want to see that for fantasy because I think it opens up everything.
Yeah. And it's early. It might. But if it doesn't, I do think, I think Brian Robinson will be a very good value this year.
He has been so